Lisa Morgan sat at her workstation deep inside the Titan Deep Space Monitoring Station. The coffee in her cup had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the screens showing radio waves from distant stars. For 3 years, she had been listening to the emptiness of space, hoping to hear something that would change everything. The station floated in the dark between Saturn and Uranus, far from Earth's noise. Lisa and 47 other people worked here, watching and listening for any sign that humans were not alone in the universe. Most days brought nothing but static and the distant whispers of dying stars. Today felt different. A strange pattern flickered across her screen. Lisa leaned forward, her heart beating faster. The signal was weak, almost lost in the background noise of space. But there was something about it that made her hands shake as she reached for the controls. "Computer, isolate frequency 47.6 and clean up the signal," she said. The machine hummed quietly. The wavy lines on her screen became clearer. Lisa stared at what she saw. The pattern repeated every 37 seconds. It was too perfect to be natural, too organized to be random. Someone was sending this message. Lisa's chair squeaked as she rolled back from her desk. She needed to tell Commander Jake Sullivan right away. Her boots clicked on the metal floor as she ran down the corridor to his office. Jake was a big man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 20 years and had seen enough false alarms to fill a book. When Lisa burst through his door, he looked up from his reports with annoyance. "This better be important, Morgan. I've got supply requests to approve and a broken air filter in Sector 7. Sir, I've found something. A signal from deep space. It's artificial." Jake set down his pen and looked at her carefully. "Are you sure?" Last month, Ching thought she found alien music. Turned out to be a broken satellite. Lisa shook her head. "This is different. The pattern is too complex, too precise. Someone is trying to send a message." Jake stood up and followed her back to the communications room. Other workers looked up as they passed. Word spread quickly on a small station. By the time they reached Lisa's workstation, half the crew was watching. "Show me," Jake said. Lisa played the cleaned-up signal. The room fell silent as strange sounds filled the air. Beeps and tones that rose and fell in patterns that seemed almost like speech. Everyone could hear it. This was not random noise. "Where is it coming from?" Jake asked. 47 light-years away. The signal is old, very old. Whatever sent this died out decades ago. Jake rubbed his chin. "Could be a probe, maybe automated." "We need Dr. Kevin Hayes to look at this." Dr. Hayes was the station's expert on languages and codes. He was a thin man with thick glasses who spent most of his time alone with his computers. When Jake called him to the communications room, Kevin arrived carrying 3 different tablets and a cup of tea. "What do we have?" Kevin asked, pushing his glasses up his nose. Lisa played the signal again. Kevin listened with his eyes closed. His head tilted like a bird. After the third replay, he opened his eyes and smiled. "This is definitely a language. See how certain sounds repeat? Those are probably words. And the way the pitch changes at the end of sequences? That might be questions. Or commands. How long will it take you to decode?" Jake asked. "Give me 6 hours, maybe less if I'm lucky." Kevin disappeared into his office with the signal recording. The rest of the crew tried to go back to work, but nobody could focus. They were too excited, too nervous. After decades of searching, they might have finally found proof that other intelligent life existed. Lisa couldn't eat lunch. She kept checking her screen for more signals, but space had gone quiet again. Just that one message, repeating its mysterious pattern across the void. 4 hours later, Kevin emerged from his office. His hair was messy and his eyes were red, but he was grinning like a child with a new toy. "I've got something," he announced. Everyone gathered around as Kevin connected his tablet to the main screen. Lines of text appeared showing his translation. "Work. The language is mathematical at its base, very logical. Once I figured out their number system, the rest started to make sense." Kevin pointed at different parts of the message. "This part here says, 'Help.' This section gives coordinates, and this ... His smile faded. This part talks about death and time running out. The room became very quiet. It's a distress call, Kevin continued. From something called the Zalani Empire. They're under attack by machines called the Vrex Collective. 12 worlds have already been destroyed. They have maybe 3 days left before their last planet falls. Jake stared at the screen. When was this sent? Based on the signal strength and distance, about 46 years ago. But the message repeats every 37 seconds, which suggests automated transmission. They might still be broadcasting. Lisa felt cold. They could still be alive, still fighting. Or they could have been dead for decades, Jake said quietly. Kevin shook his head. There's more. The message isn't just asking for help. It's warning. Other species about the Vrex, according to this, the machines consume entire star systems. They turn planets into raw materials for building more ships. We need to contact Earth immediately, Jake said. This is bigger than just a distress call. If these Vrex things are still out there, they might come for us next. Lisa returned to her station and began preparing the transmission to Earth. As she worked, she thought about the beings who had sent this message. Somewhere in the darkness, between stars, people like her might still be fighting for their lives. They had called out into the void, hoping someone would hear them. Someone had. The question now was whether humanity would choose to answer. Admiral Patricia Cole stood in the war room deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. The decoded alien message played on the screens around her for the 5th time. Each replay made the situation clearer and more terrible. Somewhere in space, an entire civilization was dying while machines stripped their worlds bare. How reliable is this translation? She asked Dr. Hayes, who had been flown in from Titan Station just hours before. 95% accurate, Admiral. The mathematics are solid. The language patterns are consistent. This is real. Patricia looked around the room at her staff. General Bob Harris commanded the Space Marines. Colonel Nancy Webb ran intelligence. Operations. Captain Danny Green was her best strategic planner. All of them waited for her decision. What's our current fleet strength? She asked. Colonel Webb pulled up the numbers. We have 812 active military vessels. That includes everything from patrol boats to our largest battleships. The Phoenix Prime is our strongest ship, but even she would be outgunned by what these aliens are facing. Counselor Alex Turner, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, stepped forward. He was a thin man in an expensive suit who always looked worried about something. Admiral, I must protest any military action. The Galactic Council has strict rules about interfering in conflicts between other species. If we get involved, we could lose our trading rights. Our membership could be revoked. Patricia turned to face him. Counselor, I've read the Galactic Council reports. In the past 100 years, how many times has the Council sent military aid to species under attack? Turner shifted uncomfortably. That's not the point. The Council works through diplomacy and economic pressure. How many times? Patricia repeated. 0, but thank you. Patricia looked at her staff again. The message was broadcast on all frequencies. These people are dying and asking anyone who will listen for help. The Council won't act, so we will. General Harris leaned forward. Admiral, even if we send everything we have, the odds are terrible. They're facing 10,000 enemy ships. We can't match that. Maybe we can't match their numbers, but we can try to help. Send the order to all fleet commanders. Full mobilization. Every ship we have, Captain Green pulled up tactical displays. It will take 3 days to assemble the fleet and reach their coordinates. According to the alien message, they have less than 72 hours left. Then we better move fast. The orders went out across Earth's communication networks within minutes. Every military base, every space station, every ship in the outer colonies received the same message. An alien species was calling for help. Earth was answering, but something unexpected happened. As news of the alien distress call spread through civilian networks, other ships began to volunteer. Captain Ryan Bell commanded a cargo hauler called the Lucky Strike. He was delivering mining equipment to Mars when the news reached him. His crew gathered on the bridge to watch the alien message on their screens. "That's it then," Ryan said after the message ended. "We're going to help them." His engineer, a woman named Carol Price, looked at him strangely. "Ryan, we're a cargo ship. We don't have weapons. We barely have shields. We can mount some guns on the cargo pods. We can carry supplies. We can evacuate refugees if any survive. The company will fire us if we abandon our delivery schedule." Ryan smiled. "Carol, there are people dying out there. They called for help. What kind of people would we be if we ignored that?" All across human space, similar conversations were happening. Corporate security fleets abandoned their patrol routes. Mining ships left their asteroids. Exploration vessels turned away from distant stars. Research stations emptied as their ships joined the growing armada. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster worked in fleet coordination on Luna Base. Her job was usually routine: track ship movements, schedule repairs, make sure supply lines ran smoothly. Today, her screen showed something she had never seen before. Ships were converging on Earth from every direction. Military vessels mixed with civilian craft. Old freighters flew alongside new destroyers. Independent traders joined corporate fleets. Even the rich tourists with their luxury yachts were welding weapon mounts to their hulls. "Amy, I'm getting reports of over 4,000 ships heading for Earth," her assistant called out. "The number keeps growing." Amy stared at her displays. "Have they all been ordered to respond?" "No, ma'am. Most of them are volunteers. They heard about the alien message and just came." Dr. Sandra Lopez ran the medical division at Fleet Command. When the mobilization order came down, she faced an impossible task. How do you prepare medical facilities for treating alien patients when you don't know what aliens look like? She called together her best doctors and medics. "We're going into the unknown. We might be treating humans, we might be treating aliens, we might be treating both. Pack everything. Every medical scanner, every surgical tool, every medicine we have." Dr. Kate Murphy, a specialist in emergency surgery, raised her hand. "Sandra, we don't even know if alien blood will be red or blue or green. How can we help them?" "We figure it out when we get there. Life is life, pain is pain. We'll find a way." Engineer Carlos Rivera worked around the clock to modify civilian ships for military duty. Cargo pods became weapon platforms. Passenger compartments were converted to medical bays. Racing yachts got armor plating welded over their engines. The work was rough and fast. Nobody cared if the modifications looked pretty. They just needed to work long enough to reach the battle zone. "This is insane," muttered Gary Cole, one of Carlos's welders. "Half these ships will fall apart if they get hit." Carlos wiped sweat from his forehead. "Then we better not get hit." By the end of the second day, over 8,000 human ships had gathered near Earth. It was the largest fleet in human history. Military analysts from other species watched in amazement through their spy satellites. The Zalani Empire had asked for help from anyone who would listen. They had broadcast their message hoping to reach one or two nearby civilizations, maybe get a few ships. A small rescue mission instead? An entire species had dropped everything to come to their aid. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. No other species had ever mobilized purely to help strangers. Wars were fought for territory or resources or revenge. But this was different. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of her flagship as the great fleet prepared to depart. Ships stretched in every direction, more than her screens could count. Freighters flew next to battleships. Corporate logos mixed with military insignia. "All ships report ready for jump, Admiral," her communications officer announced. Patricia looked out at the fleet one more time. Somewhere far away, people were dying, but help was coming. Help from a species that most aliens considered primitive and violent. Maybe they were wrong about humans. "All ships," Patricia said into her microphone. "This is Admiral Cole. We go to answer a call for help from people we've never met. We may not all come home, but we will not let them die alone. Fleet, prepare for hyperspace jump." The greatest armada in human history disappeared into the darkness between stars. racing toward a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The human fleet jumped through space like a giant metal river flowing between the stars. 8,000 ships moved together in the largest formation anyone had ever seen. They traveled in groups, making calculated jumps across 47 light years of empty darkness. Fleet Admiral Peter Jackson commanded from the Bridge of Liberty's Edge, a massive battleship that served as the fleet's flagship. His screens showed hundreds of ship formations spread across space. Military destroyers flew next to cargo haulers. Racing ships stayed close to hospital vessels. Rich people's yachts traveled alongside mining barges. "Status report," Peter called. To his bridge crew, Lieutenant Sarah Kim worked at the navigation station. "Jump sequence 7 complete, Admiral. All ships accounted for. We're maintaining formation spacing, next jump in 6 hours. Any problems with the civilian vessels?" Commander Bill Adams handled fleet communications. "A few minor issues, sir. The cargo ship Wandering Star has engine trouble, but their crew is fixing it. The yacht Golden Dream wants to scout ahead, but we told them to stay in formation." Peter nodded. The civilian volunteers were brave, but most had never flown in military formation before, keeping 8,000 ships together across interstellar distances was like herding cats in a thunderstorm. His communication officer looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving another transmission from the aliens." "Put it on the main screen." The bridge filled with strange sounds as the alien message played. Dr. Hayes had taught the translation computers to convert the alien language into English in real time. Words appeared on the screen as the alien spoke. "This is Admiral Kella. Zahn of the Zelani Defense Fleet. Our position grows worse. The machines have broken through our outer defenses. We have lost another world. Zelani Colony 7 is gone. 3 billion souls turned to dust and metal for the enemy war machine." The bridge fell silent. Peter felt his stomach twist as he listened to the desperation in the alien voice. "Our fleet strength is down to 97 ships. The enemy brings 10,000 vessels of death. We cannot hold them much longer. If anyone receives this message, please remember us. Remember that we tried to protect beauty and peace in this galaxy." Kella Zahn out. The transmission ended. Nobody on the bridge spoke for a long moment. "How much longer until we reach them?" Peter asked. 36 hours at current speed," Sarah replied. Peter looked at the tactical display showing their destination. "Will we be in time?" "Unknown, sir. Their situation is getting worse fast." Commander Tony Walsh worked in the intelligence section deep inside the ship. His job was to study everything they knew about the enemy. The humans had fought the Vrex machines before, but only in small skirmishes. This would be different. Tony's team gathered around holographic displays showing Vrex ship designs. The machines built their vessels for pure efficiency. No wasted space, no decorations. Just weapons, armor, and engines designed for maximum killing power. "Their tactics are predictable," explained Dr. Lisa Park, the team's computer expert. "They always attack in mathematical formations, perfect spacing, perfect timing. They calculate the most efficient way to destroy their targets." Sergeant Roy Kim, a veteran of border conflicts with Vrex scouts, shook his head. "That's what makes them dangerous. They don't make mistakes. They don't get tired. They don't get scared. But they also don't adapt well to chaos," Tony added. "Every time we've fought them, our irregular tactics confuse their programming. They expect logical behavior." Dr. Maria Santos led a different team studying captured Vrex technology. Her laboratory was filled with pieces of destroyed machine ships, twisted metal, broken circuits, the remains of artificial intelligence that had tried to kill humans. "The enemy thinks in pure mathematics," Maria explained to her assistants. "They see war as a numbers game. If they have more ships, better weapons, superior positioning, they calculate victory as certain." Her assistant, Dr. Carl White, held up a piece of Vrex computer core. "What they don't understand is that humans don't always act logically. We do stupid things, brave things, impossible things. Exactly. They can't calculate for courage. They can't factor in sacrifice. Their computers don't understand why someone would give their life to save strangers. Meanwhile, in the fighter bays throughout the fleet, pilots prepared for the battle ahead. Pilot Helen Carter led Gold Squadron aboard the carrier Freedoms. Wing, her pilots were good, but they had never faced anything like what waited for them. "Listen up," Helen told her squadron during their briefing. "The enemy pilots are machines. They don't get tired. They don't make emotional mistakes. They fly with computer precision." Lieutenant Jack Turner raised his hand. "How do we beat machines that don't make mistakes?" "We don't fight like machines," Helen replied. "We fight like humans. We take risks. They would never calculate. We try tactics their programming never considered. We be unpredictable." The pilots nodded, but Helen could see the worry in their eyes. They were facing an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. Throughout the fleet, similar preparations continued. Medical teams set up emergency operating rooms. Engineers checked weapon systems and shield generators. Supply officers distributed ammunition and repair parts. Captain Steve Morris commanded the reconnaissance wing flying ahead of the main fleet. His fast scouts jumped further into space, gathering information about their destination. What they found was not encouraging. "Admiral Jackson, this is Scout Leader Morris. We've reached the edge of Zilani space. I'm sending you the sensor readings now." The data arrived on Peter's screen, showing a scene of incredible destruction. Entire star systems had been stripped clean. Planets reduced to asteroid fields. Space stations turned into floating debris. "How many enemy ships do you count?" Peter asked. "Over 12,000 now, sir. They're still building more from the material they've harvested, and Admiral ... The Zilani fleet is down to 43 ships." Peter closed his eyes for a moment. They were racing across space to save people who might already be dead. "Any sign of the Zilani homeworld? Still intact, but under heavy attack?" "The enemy has it surrounded. They're bombarding the surface while their harvester ships work on the moons." Another message came through from the aliens. This time the voice was different. Weaker. "This is Acting Admiral Calazan. We have lost Admiral Colzes in the defense of the orbital stations. Enemy forces have landed on our homeworld. Our cities burn. Our children hide in deep shelters while death falls from the sky." The alien's voice shook with exhaustion and grief. "We do not expect rescue. We broadcast this message so that others might learn from our fate. The machines show no mercy. They take everything. If any civilization receives this warning, prepare your defenses. Do not let them catch you unprepared as they caught us." Peter looked around his bridge. His crew stared at their screens with grim determination. "All ships," Peter announced over the fleet communication system. "We are 30 hours from battle. The enemy outnumbers us. The situation is desperate. But somewhere ahead of us, people are dying while calling for help. We are their answer. We are their hope. Prepare for combat. We're going to show these machines what humans do when innocent people need saving." 8,000 ships continued their journey through the darkness, carrying the hopes of two species toward a battle that would determine whether compassion or cold calculation would rule the galaxy. The human armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zilani system. What they saw made even the most experienced officers gasp in horror. The alien homeworld burned under a rain of fire from orbit. Massive machine ships surrounded the planet like metal vultures, tearing apart its 3 moons for raw materials. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of Liberty's Edge and watched the destruction on her screens. Huge harvester ships were breaking down entire moons, turning rock and metal into building materials for more war machines. The planet's surface glowed with fires where cities had once stood. "Sensor report," she called out. Lieutenant Kim worked frantically at her station. 12,000 enemy vessels, Admiral. They're arranged in perfect formation around the planet. The remaining Zilani fleet, one count 31 ships. They're trapped near the planet's north pole. What about survivors on the surface? Detecting. Massive underground structures. Deep shelters. There are still people alive down there. Admiral Cole felt a cold anger fill her chest. These machines were methodically destroying an entire civilization. They worked with the efficiency of a factory, turning living worlds into raw materials. Signal the fleet. Battle Formation Alpha, all ships attack. The human fleet spread out across space like a metal cloud. Unlike the perfect geometric patterns of the machine ships, the humans moved in loose, chaotic groups. Military vessels mixed with converted cargo ships. Fast fighters weaved between massive battleships. Prime Node 7. The artificial intelligence commanding the machine fleet detected the approaching humans and calculated their threat level. The computer brain processed the data in microseconds. 8,000 primitive vessels against 12,000 advanced warships. Victory probability 97.3%. But the machines had never fought humans before. Captain Danny Roberts commanded the destroyer Wildfire. His ship was old and patched, with repairs, but his crew was ready for battle. As they approached the enemy formation, Danny opened his communication channel. "All right, people. These machines think they're smart because they can do math. Let's show them that crazy beats smart every time." The first wave of human ships hit the machine formation like a hammer against glass. But instead of trying to match the enemy's perfect tactics, the humans did something unexpected. They scattered. Small fast ships darted between the giant machine vessels, firing at sensors and communication arrays. Larger ships rammed directly into enemy formations, exploding their reactors to take down multiple targets. Converted cargo. Haulers released clouds of metal debris that confused enemy targeting systems. Prime Node 7 tried to adapt its formation to counter the human attack, but the computers couldn't predict what the humans would do next. The mathematical models showed that damaged ships should retreat. Instead, human vessels with broken engines and failing shields kept fighting harder. Commander Samantha Price led a wing of fast attack ships toward the planet. Her mission was to break through the enemy blockade and reach the Zilani survivors. Her ship, the Lightning Strike, was built for speed rather than heavy combat. Price to all ships in Charlie Wing, "We're going to punch through their line and get to those alien survivors. Follow my lead and don't think too hard about the odds." Her 12 ships dove toward the planet, weaving between massive enemy vessels that fired everything they had. 2 human ships exploded under the barrage, but the others kept going. They flew like they were racing through an asteroid field instead of fighting a desperate battle. The machines couldn't understand it. Why were these small ships flying directly into the most dangerous area instead of supporting the main attack? The computers redirected firepower to stop them, weakening their formation elsewhere. Captain Johnny Davis saw the opening that Samantha's sacrifice had created. His heavy cruiser New York's Pride was badly damaged, with half its weapons offline and its shields failing. By all logical calculations, he should retreat. Instead, he turned his ship toward the largest enemy command vessel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going to ram that command ship. Anyone who wants to evacuate to the escape pods has 30 seconds. None of his crew left their stations. The New York's Pride accelerated directly toward the enemy command ship. Machine guns and energy beams tore at its hull, but the ship kept coming. At the last second, Johnny overloaded the reactor. The explosion took out the command ship and 3 smaller vessels around it. More importantly, it created a gap in the enemy formation that allowed the main human fleet to push through. Dr. Rachel Murphy worked frantically in the medical bay of the hospital ship Mercy's Call. Wounded humans arrived on shuttles from damaged ships, but she also received some unexpected patients. Commander Price's team had managed to rescue several Zilani survivors from the planet's surface. The first alien Rachel ever saw was Admiral Kelazon, the Zilani fleet commander. She was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large golden eyes. Her left arm was badly burned from her ship's destruction. "Doctor," Kella said in halting English that her translator device made possible, "my people ... Rachel worked to treat the aliens' wounds while she talked. "We're getting them to safety. Your language computers are helping us communicate with the survivors underground." Kella's eyes filled with tears. "You came?" "We called into the darkness and you came." "Why? You do not know us." Rachel looked up from her work. Because you asked for help. That's what people do. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human ships fought with a determination that confused the machine intelligence. Damaged vessels that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Crews worked impossible hours to keep weapons and engines running. Ships with hull breaches and failing life support continued their attacks. Slowly, the human tactics began to work. The machine formation, designed for mathematical precision, started to break apart under the chaotic human assault. Gaps appeared in their lines. Their perfect coordination began to fail. Captain Luke Parker led the fighter squadrons in hit-and-run attacks against the massive harvester ships. These huge vessels were stripping the planet's moons for raw materials, but they were poorly defended against small, fast targets. Gold Squadron, target their mining lasers. Silver Squadron, hit their material processors, make them stop eating this system. The fighters swarmed around the harvesters like angry bees. They couldn't destroy the huge ships, but they could damage their equipment and slow their work. Meanwhile, the main battle continued around the planet. Human ships used tactics that no computer could predict. They pretended to retreat, then suddenly turned and attacked. They grouped together to concentrate firepower, then scattered before the enemy could respond. The machines had superior technology and greater numbers, but they couldn't adapt to an enemy that fought with courage instead of logic. As the hours passed, the human fleet took heavy losses. Over 2,000 ships had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair, but they had accomplished something remarkable. The perfect machine formation was breaking apart. Admiral Cole watched the battle displays and saw the moment when victory became possible. The enemy fleet was no longer fighting as one coordinated unit. The humans had forced them into smaller groups that could be defeated one by one. All ships, this is Admiral Cole. The enemy formation is cracking. Press the attack. Don't give them time to regroup. 8,000 human ships had become 6,000, then 5,000. But the survivors fought with the fury of people who had found something worth dying for. They had come to save strangers, and they would not fail. In the depths of space, artificial minds tried to calculate why these primitive beings fought so hard for people they had never met. The computers searched their databases for an explanation, but found none. They could not understand that some things are more important than logic. Some things are worth any sacrifice. The tide of battle was turning, and the machines were learning what it meant to fight humans who had nothing left to lose and everything to save. The battle had raged for 20 hours when Lieutenant Colonel Frank Thompson made a discovery that would change everything. His engineering team had been working deep inside the captured wreckage of a machine scout ship, trying to understand how the enemy communicated. Admiral Cole, this is Thompson. I think we found something important. Frank's voice crackled over the communication system as explosions lit up the space around them. His team had been working while the battle continued, searching through alien computer systems for any advantage. What do you have, Colonel? Admiral Cole asked from the Bridge of Liberty's edge. The machines don't think for themselves, Admiral. They're all connected to one central brain, a command ship hidden behind the gas giant. Every enemy vessel takes orders from that one location. Admiral Cole felt her heart race. Are you certain? Positive? I'm looking at their communication network right now. If we can destroy that command ship, the entire enemy fleet will lose coordination. Cole studied her tactical displays. The gas giant was on the far side of the system, protected by rings of ice and radiation that would make any approach extremely dangerous. More importantly, it was guarded by over 1,000 enemy vessels. Can you give me exact coordinates? Sending them now. But Admiral, getting there will be nearly impossible. The enemy has their best ships protecting that location. Cole looked around her bridge. Her crew had been fighting for almost a full day. They were exhausted, wounded, and running low on ammunition. But this might be their only chance to save both the Zilani and what remained of the human fleet. Communications. SIGNAL Captain Parker. Tell him I need his fastest ships for a special mission. Captain Luke Parker commanded the fighter wings that had been harassing the enemy harvester ships. His pilots were tired, but their small, fast ships were perfect for what Cole had in mind. "Parker here, Admiral. What do you need?" "Luke, we found the enemy command ship. It's behind the gas giant, heavily protected. I need you to take your best pilots and hit that target." Luke looked at his tactical display. The route to the gas giant was a nightmare of enemy ships and natural hazards. His fighters would have to fly through the heart of the machine fleet to reach their target. "Understood, Admiral. How many ships do you want me to take?" "All of them." Luke gathered his squadron leaders on the communication channel. These were his best pilots, people who had followed him through dozens of battles. Now he was asking them to fly what might be a suicide mission. "Listen up, everyone. We found the enemy brain. It's hiding behind the big gas giant. If we can destroy it, this whole nightmare ends." Commander Helen Carter, his second-in-command, spoke up first. "What are our chances of reaching the target?" "Honestly, not good. The enemy has us outnumbered and outgunned. The radiation around that gas giant will mess with our shields, and we'll have to fight through their entire fleet to get there." The communication channel was quiet for a moment, then one by one his pilots began to respond. "Gold. Leader here, my squadron is ready. Silver Wing reporting. We're with you." "Blue Squadron standing by." Luke felt pride fill his chest. These people knew the odds, but they were willing to try anyway. That was what made humans different from machines. "All right, people, form up on me. We're going to fly faster and crazier than we ever have before. Stay close and follow my lead." 200 human fighters launched toward the gas giant. They flew in loose formation, weaving between larger ships and using asteroids for cover. The enemy detected them quickly and sent interceptors to stop them. The space around the gas giant became a swirling battle of small ships. Human fighters used every trick they knew. They flew through asteroid fields that would damage larger ships. They used the gas giant's magnetic field to confuse enemy sensors. They took risks that no sane pilot would attempt. The enemy fighters were faster and more heavily armed, but they flew with computer precision. They couldn't match the wild creativity of human pilots who had learned to fly by racing through Earth's atmosphere. Luke's fighter group lost half their ships reaching the gas giant's outer ring, but they had found their target. The enemy command ship was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything else in the machine fleet. It floated in the radiation shadow of the gas giant, thinking it was safe. "All fighters, target the central structure. That's where their brain is located. Hit it with everything we have." The remaining fighters dove toward the command ship. Its defenses were incredible. Energy beams and missile swarms filled the space around it. More human ships exploded under the defensive fire, but some got through. Luke's fighter was the last one standing as he approached the command ship's central core. His shields were gone, his engines were damaged, his weapons were almost out of ammunition. "This is for everyone who called for help and thought no one was listening," he said into his microphone. Luke aimed his fighter directly at the command ship's central processor and fired his remaining missiles. Then he did something that no machine could calculate or understand. He rammed his ship into the enemy's brain. The explosion was visible from across the solar system. Prime Node 7, the artificial intelligence that had commanded 12,000 ships, died in a flash of light and twisted metal. Instantly, every machine ship in the fleet lost contact with their central command. The results were immediate and dramatic. Enemy ships stopped moving in coordinated formation. Some vessels continued attacking, but they fought as individuals instead of as part of a unified force. Others simply stopped working entirely, their programming unable to function without central guidance. The tide of battle turned in minutes. Human ships that had been barely surviving suddenly found themselves fighting confused, uncoordinated enemies. The machine fleet began to break apart as different vessels followed conflicting programming instructions. Admiral Cole watched the enemy formation collapse on her screens. "All ships, press the attack. Don't give them time to reorganize." The remaining human vessels, supported by what was left of the Zelani fleet, began systematically destroying the enemy ships. Without their central intelligence, the machines couldn't adapt to changing conditions or coordinate their defenses. Within 6 hours, the machine fleet was defeated. Some enemy ships escaped by jumping to hyperspace, but they fled as individuals rather than as an organized force. The Vrex Collective, which had consumed 12 star systems, was broken on the surface of Zelani Prime. The survivors emerged from their underground shelters to see human ships in orbit. The bombardment had stopped. The harvester ships that had been eating their moons were silent hulks floating in space. Admiral Kelazon stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship and looked at the human fleet through her view screen. These strange beings had traveled across the galaxy to answer a call for help from people they had never met. They had sacrificed thousands of their own people to save a civilization they knew nothing about. Admiral Cole, Kella said through the translation system, I formally request that the Galactic Council grant humanity emergency membership and full recognition as a spacefaring civilization. Cole smiled tiredly. Thank you, Admiral Zahn, but we didn't come here for political recognition. We came because you needed help. That is exactly why the galaxy needs your people. In the months that followed, the Human-Zelani Mutual Defense Pact became the foundation for a new kind of galactic civilization. Other species, who had watched the battle through their long-range sensors, began to understand that these strange humans from the death world called Earth were different from every other species in the galaxy. They didn't fight for territory, resources, or revenge. They fought for an idea that most aliens found difficult to understand, that all intelligent life had value, and that those with power had a responsibility to protect those without it. The human fleet returned to Earth as heroes, but more importantly, they had established humanity's role in the galaxy. When other species faced extinction, when the darkness seemed too complete and hope seemed lost, they would call for the humans, because humans always answered. The galaxy had learned that some things were more powerful than logic, more enduring than mathematics, and more important than survival itself. They had learned about courage, sacrifice, and the strange human belief that no one should face the dark alone. Admiral Cole stood on the observation deck of Liberty's Edge as Earth grew larger on the view screen. Behind them, construction ships were already beginning to build joint human-Zelani space stations. The first of many symbols that the galaxy had changed forever. The age of compassion had begun.